Okay, I am live again. Hello again, everyone. I'm sure not everybody that was watching the previous stream live is on already, but I guess I'll give you guys a couple minutes to pop in. Um, just really gonna sort of wrap up the last stream, but we'll go a few minutes and um, just wow, I'm getting so tired of the trolls breaking into my live streams. Um, I really don't know how they got a hold of it. I'm sure neither Dave or Matt were responsible for sharing the link, but perhaps it was when I shared my screen. I'm 100% certain that I didn't reveal the URL, so maybe they have figured out some kind of a way to crack that part of the code. I mean, maybe that's why it takes them so long. It's because they have to go through and try different combinations of digits. Hey, is that you, Dave?
Yeah, I'm on. Yep.
Hey, man. So, yeah, like, let me make sure that everything's working on the live side of this. So,
All right,
uh,
cool.
if you want to try to fill some silence,
I could play some music for a little bit.
no. um, so let me see here. Am I okay? Let me tell everybody here because there are still some people hanging out in the old stream. Say starting new stream already live.
Yeah, I didn't know what was going on. Like as soon as I saw you get off, I'm just like, oh, I'm like something must have happened. So I signed off immediately too. So
Did you hear the guy that joined?
I did. I think I don't know. It didn't sound like that Tim Osmond dude to me. It sounded like I because I saw someone join the chat earlier.
Um,
I forget the name though that was on there. What was the name of the other guy that was supposed to join the chat earlier? Do you? Oh, what was it?
yeah, Matt.
Matt. Um,
Uh-huh.
does he have a different screen name or like YouTube or Google Hangout name or something like that?
I
So
have no idea.
okay, because I was thinking maybe it was that guy that just signed on, but I,
No, no, that wasn't Matt for sure.
okay.
No, like, and the reason I cut it off is because it would just be a matter of time before they start playing porn.
Oh
And
yeah.
if they do that, then I get a community guideline strike and I lose my ability to live stream for 3 months. And
Damn.
there's some other punishments for it. But that it actually the last live stream I did, someone was able to break into it and they actually started playing porn. But luckily, I caught it in time. I killed the stream, and well, I took some steps to combat it. I'm not going to reveal exactly what I did, but this is like every single time I stream, and if I share my screen, they're able to basically see the video Hangout URL, even if it's just for a second, which is why I slide that window all the way off to the right so that only like maybe the first half of the URL is visible. But
Oh,
even still, yeah, even still, they're somehow able to fill in the end of it. And
that's
so I'm
weird.
guessing maybe they've either got some sort of a cracking software to where they can try different combinations of like they have the beginning of it so they know like like let's say it's a 35 character URL. If they've got the first dozen characters, they may have some software or maybe they're just randomly trying codes to get the rest of it.
Right.
um, Honestly, I don't know exactly how they do it, but man, is it getting annoying.
Well, is there something you could use besides Google Hangouts to do a live stream, or is that
There is.
okay? Did you try anything else besides Google Hangouts yet, just to see if that
Yeah,
would work?
like, well, I've used OBS a couple of times and I kind of suck at it, but also it seems like it uses a lot of bandwidth. And even though I've got high-speed internet, it's supposedly 100 megabyte per second cable internet, like whenever I use up a lot of bandwidth doing even sometimes using just the Google Hangouts on air, it'll just crash my network. And when I used OBS, it just seemed like it was, and I just did it for tests. I didn't even go live. Well, actually, I did go live with a couple of them, but I did a few where I was just streaming to a private thing where nobody would have seen it, and it kept crashing my network. And so I'm gonna have to go over to it. I need someone to like tutor me in OBS for about an hour.
Right.
Um,
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Exactly.
I could probably teach myself with like video tutorials or whatever, but I don't know. It's just so much better when you have someone that can teach you, and like I can ask questions and um, learn
Right.
how to do it.
Exactly. Yeah, even with my recording software for my music, it's like, yeah, once you have a guy that knows what they're doing, it's like, yeah, it takes an hour or two to figure where it'd take you 10 hours to have to search all the videos and do all that stuff if you're doing it the other way, you know.
Well, and
So
I went through some video training manuals for OBS, and I kind of got the basics down, but there's a few things where I'm like, well, how do you do this, and this? And if I try to find tutorials for those, I'm not finding it. Whereas somebody that knows what they're doing, they would just know right off the top of their head, you
yeah,
know?
exactly, exactly. Well,
So
by the
I
way,
think,
what about
oh, go ahead.
YouTube? Like, can you do a live stream right from YouTube, like YouTube Live or whatever, or whatever that is? You know, again, I'm a total novice
Yeah,
with
no,
all
that's
this
what I
stuff.
do. That's what I do. I set up an event from my YouTube creator page,
Okay.
and then I start the event from within YouTube, and it takes you to Google Hangouts on air that way.
Oh, okay.
Um,
So they work together with Google Hangouts. So anytime you're doing a YouTube live stream, it's through Google Hangouts, basically, unless you do it. Like that's basically the default is through Google Hangouts.
Yeah,
Okay.
right, exactly. And like I said, I have used OBS. I've got OBS. I just suck at it. And I think there's probably a way where I can make it less of a bandwidth hog. There probably is. I hope there is. So with a little bit of training and I'm gonna have to do something. It's just getting out of hand. Um,
Yeah.
because it's like, and it just goes to show you, man, that these people have no lives.
I
Like I wouldn't,
yeah. I was just gonna
I
say,
would,
what? How big of a freaking loser do you have to be to do something like that? It's like, dude, get a life, man. You know, like go pick up an instrument, or go for a walk. You know, you got to put porn on somebody's live stream just to mess with them, dude. I mean, it's ridiculous, dude. So
well,
I don't know if it's coming from the higher ups or if it's just coming from like some dork sitting in his mom's basement. You know?
well, luckily they didn't do the porn bomb thing this time. I'm really surprised that they didn't, um, because Splatter says that maybe YouTube employees doing it. I doubt it. Um, but like, yeah, that's just crazy, and I just couldn't picture myself spending because literally I started sharing my screen. Goodness, it was like 45 minutes ago, and I'm pretty sure that whomever that was must have been watching the whole time, or at least since 45 minutes ago. And like it must have taken him 45 minutes to figure out the rest of the URL code and just ruin the rest of my stream. I mean, but like I don't know, I can't pretend to relate to that. I mean, what a freaking butthead.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously. Dude,
But
it's ridiculous. By the way, how do you see the live stream while we're talking right now? Like, is that something that because when I'm just on Google Hangouts, it looks like
mhm.
so I don't see the actual live stream. Do you see it as it's going on?
No. All I do is like you could either open a new tab, but I use Firefox. So I got Google Chrome going where I'm running the Hangout, and then I use Firefox and just go to YouTube and watch the stream that way.
Oh, okay, I
Um,
gotcha.
yeah. So
Nice.
anyway, did you have any sort of commentary or anything that you wanted to go over regarding the video that we just watched? Um,
I mean, I think we pretty much covered it, I mean, and I think we were in the midst of summing it up right when that shit happened at the end, right? But
mhm.
I mean, there's nothing I could think of offhand, other than, how they're going about doing it. But again, it's a lot of that is just speculative sort of stuff there. But um,
Uh,
Yeah.
real quick, not to interrupt you, one of the things that I forgot to mention, and it wasn't specific to any part of the video per se, but I did cover all the other points that I had put in my notes. But the centrifugal force, now allegedly the spacecraft is in orbit, so it should be consistently going along a curve. Okay. And it's going along that curve at very high velocity. I want to say
17.
15,000.
I
What
was
was
gonna
it?
say 17,000. I thought
Yeah,
seventeen
they,
thousand miles per hour. Yeah.
they say 17,000 miles an hour, whatever. But the point being is that if they're going along a curve, you would expect to see the astronauts tending towards the outside edge of that curve, so away from the Earth. So towards the top of the spacecraft, although there is no top, the astronauts were using the bottom of this craft. She literally said towards the end there, when she was in the Russian segment, she said there's windows on the bottom of the craft. So if the astroliers are allowed to say top and bottom of the craft, then I think I should be allowed to say it too. And so they
Right.
they should be going tending towards the top of the craft. They would consistently be forced towards the outside edge of that curve because of the centrifugal force. Their body would tend to travel in a straight line, whereas the craft itself is going in an orbit around the Earth. And so you may say, well, it's because of gravity. That's what they're going to say. It's because of gravity. Well, I'm sorry, but I thought that gravity was depending upon not only proximity, but also the mass of the object. And of course, the ISS, the LISS, is obviously much more massive than the astrolayer. And so I just don't think that gravity would be, it wouldn't be affecting her as it is the craft. And so you would think that she would be tending towards the outside edge of the craft. And yet it appears that there is no sort of problem whatsoever for them to, remain lockstep, fixed with the frame of reference of the craft.
Right.
So I think
Well,
that's another problem.
well, exactly. I was gonna say, like, even when you're on a plane, I mean, and the plane is making, like, or it's, yeah, it's turning left or right. I mean, yeah, you feel that, like, I mean, I see what you're saying, because it's the same sort of concept. You would think, regardless if it's in, the vacuum of space, it's, yeah, that you would think that would still be, you would be being pushed to the side, like you would be on a plane, essentially. I don't know, right? I mean, that's basically what you're saying? I mean, it's the same concept, right? I mean, that if, whether you're on a plane or you're on the ISS, it should have the same sort of effect, I would think.
And run it by me one more time. I'm sorry, I uh, didn't quite get exactly what you said. Run it by me one more time.
No, I'm just saying, like you're saying, like, okay, because you're going around. I mean, so the centrifugal force would be what I'm saying is, basically, if it's, whether you're in the ISS, on an airplane, or in a car, if you're going around in a circle, or if you're going in an orbit, let's say you're on a racetrack in a car, obviously, yeah, you're leaning one way. If you're on a
Mhm.
plane and the plane's veering left to turn around somewhere, yeah, you're going to be leaning that way as well. So I think, yeah, the same concept should apply for the ISS, regardless if it's in the vacuum of space, right? I mean, is that basically
Yeah,
what
it
you're
it
saying to me?
should. Yeah, it's like it's inertia. Your independent body should be everything wants to travel in a straight line. If you're in motion, that motion naturally tends to be in a straight line unless some other force is acting on it. And so, in the case of the ISS, that straight line motion is impeded by, allegedly, by the gravity of the Earth. So while the spacecraft is wanting to go in a straight line, gravity is causing it to go in a curvilinear path. And so the astronaut inside the craft, however, nowhere nearly as massive as the ISS, would not have that the same forces applied to them. And so it does make sense, or it seems that they should have to adjust or correct for that. And yet, I've never heard it mentioned, or I've never seen it happen to where they have to worry about this sort of centrifugal force of the ISS's orbit ever.
Right,
And
right.
there's another problem, I think. There's just so much wrong with it. And, this isn't even getting into the spacewalks where we've noticed lots of times air bubbles in space, which to me proves that they're filming these shots underwater in the pool. We've seen scuba divers in space, with their scuba tanks and flippers on. Um, and it's just there's so many things wrong with NASA. And my point would be, like, even if you catch them lying once ever about space, or faking their footage in space, to me their credibility's gone, because if
Yeah.
they actually had the ability to do what they claim, they wouldn't have to fake any of it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're coming up on the 50-year anniversary in July, right? Of the the Apollo 11 mission, right? That's I think, yeah, this is the 50th year anniversary, right?
Is it?
Yeah, and it's I mean, yeah, you think about all that. I mean, again, what gets me when I first heard that they lost all of the telemetry data, I'm like, what? I'm like, it you can't even it doesn't even make one bit of sense, you know? And then you hear
Mhm.
Tom Pettit talk about destroying all the technology. And it's like these things are just so far removed from what normal human behavior would be, and just normal protocol would be. That it's just like, come on, man. Like, if people can't see through the deception just based on those two things alone, destroying the technology and losing all the telemetry data from the most important mission in mankind's history. It's like that
It
in
wasn't.
itself says something.
Yeah, well, and it wasn't just the telemetry data. It was supposedly all of the original video
Well,
footage.
yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, I left that part out too. Yeah, it's the
Right.
biggest part. It's like, so I mean, those things alone, if that doesn't raise a red flag to you, I don't know what will. I mean, because it's like, dude, how much more blatant can it get? It's unbelievable. When you just think of just something simple like that. So
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
it's
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 just the
it's
whole thing's
crazy.
crazy.
It really is, because, like, data like that, especially when you're dealing with a military organization, I'm sorry, but it would not be lost. I could understand a reel getting lost, or maybe a box, or 10 or 20
Right.
boxes of reels getting lost. But for their claim is it's like thousands of reels. It's like hundreds of boxes full of reels that were just lost. They've misplaced them. I'm sorry, but, like, who is it? Owen Benjamin, I think it was, made it was just so funny the way he put it. I'm not going to do it justice, but um, basically, if you're in a court of law and you're prosecuting someone that, well, let's see, wait a minute. Yeah, that has supposedly evidence to exonerate themselves. And they basically say to the judge or to the prosecutor that they lost all the evidence. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think that's going to be a valid excuse? Or are they're basically going to get railroaded? And I'll tell you what would happen. If you lost that evidence, it doesn't exist. You're going to get railroaded. And
Right.
so I don't see why NASA should be above that sort of law of the land, where it demands that they be held accountable. And the fact that they lost hundreds of boxes, thousands of reels of footage of these 1960s and 70s moon missions speaks volumes as to its authenticity, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you think that would be like headline news. Like that should be like front page. It shouldn't be something that's buried in some YouTube videos that you have to come across in order to realize this kind of stuff. If if
Hmm.
if the if the nature of you know what we see is real, like, I mean, like the news and all this stuff, I mean, this is they would talk about that. If we had real news, if it wasn't propaganda, which obviously we all know it is. If it was real news, they would talk about the Federal Reserve and what the scam that is. I mean, they would talk
Hmm.
about Building 7. I mean, there's so many things that they would talk about if we were getting real news, like things that would be front page, talked about all the time. I remember, even I came across a video about 15 years ago or 12 years ago maybe, about this guy that it's this scientist that figured out how to regrow your body parts.
Hmm.
And it was basically using pig's bladder. Once you use pig's bladder, you could regrow your finger. You could regrow like so many different things. And I'm like, when you first hear this, you're like, okay, well, that's some science fiction stuff. It's not real. But
Hmm.
then when I looked into it, I'm like, no, it was legit. This guy figured out how to, because his brother cut off his finger, okay,
Hmm.
accidentally working on some sort of like, wood project or whatever. And so he cut off his finger and they weren't able to put it back on. So the brother, who's the scientist who was working on this project for like 15 years, he started putting the pig bladder on his brother's thumb. And it's not just pig bladder. I think there's more to it than just that.
Hmm.
But over a few months, his finger grew entirely back. And
Wow.
they took a fingerprint of it afterwards, exact same fingerprint that he had because he had his fingerprint records when he was in the military.
Okay.
And this is something that you can come across where, again, this type of information just should be, in the forefront of everything. Like we're seeing this stuff day in and day out, but instead it's suppressed. There's so much information like this that is constantly suppressed. And that's why, it's not a stretch to think we're being lied to about pretty much everything because, there's already so much proof that we're being lied to about everything. It's just endless, it seems.
Have you come across the pretty recent story that I want to say the Pentagon or one of those government agencies um, basically misplaced or has lost $21 trillion
Trillion dollars.
dollars?
Yeah, they
Yeah,
can't account for it. Yeah,
right.
exactly.
And it's barely mentioned in the mainstream news. But Redacted Tonight, Lee Camp has been talking about it a lot. But
Yeah,
like, it's funny because it's like underground information where you would expect that sort of huge blunder on the part of the government to be top story. People, heads should be rolling. There
yeah,
should be Senate hearings. There should be something going on about this, and
exactly.
you hardly hear a peep. And so
Well,
you're right. I mean,
I was going to say, well, even the day before 9/11, Rumsfeld was testifying in front of Congress because I think at that point it was only like 7 trillion missing, or something like that. I forget the exact number. It was like
I
5
think it was in
trillion or
the
7.
billions. Wasn't it in the billions at that point? Maybe
No,
it was
it
two
was
trillion or
it was something like that. It was like a huge amount of money that the Pentagon
Mhm.
couldn't account for, and this was September 10th of 2001.
Right.
Rumsfeld, and then all of a sudden 9/11 happens, and it's like, okay, that's completely forgotten.
Was it Rumsfeld or Cheney that was making that speech? Might
I
was it?
think I thought it was Rumsfeld
Maybe
that
you're
was
right.
testifying in front of Congress.
You're probably right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Anything evil, pretty much you could blame on Rumsfeld. I mean, then again, obviously Cheney too.
Yeah, that's a
But
good rule of thumb.
right, right. But man, dude, it's nuts. It's crazy. And then the crazy part is when you try to talk to people about this, like because people just get so sucked into the mainstream news and this and that and all this stuff of what's going on with. I don't even. I mean, I stopped watching the mainstream news so long ago. I don't even know. There's some hearing going on right now with Trump's lawyer or something like that, and it's just such nonsense. It's just such a show and it's amazing. Like one of my older brothers, he's like, oh, can you believe that he's not asking this about Trump and this and that? I'm like, dude, you're buying into the two-party system. I'm like, this whole thing is freaking nonsense. I'm like, you don't see through that by now. They're
Yeah.
just classic divide and conquer sort of tactics.
Oh yeah.
Because they fight the same wars. They have the same monetary policies. They're both bought and paid for by Wall Street and big pharma and everything else. It's like they've got little differences here and there about which wedge issue do you stand on for this for abortion or which wedge issue do you stand on for whatever. They'll just throw anything out there just to try to divide people. And it's like, dude, look at the big picture. These guys are fighting the same wars. I remember when I told people that Obama, when he was president, his last year in office, he dropped 26,000 bombs that year. And
Hmm.
26,000 bombs. And And everyone's like, no, Obama, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, of course not. I'm like, dude, I'm like, look it up, man. I'm like, the Council on Foreign Relations put out that report that Obama minimally dropped 26,000 bombs his last year in office. The year before that, 21,000 bombs. So it's like it's all just like cover-ups and lies, and they've got their personas and they've got their images, and the Democrats are like this, the Republicans are like that. It's like, dude, please. Anyone that still buys into the two-party system is like, open your eyes, man. Like, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah, I mean, they really do have a lot of people snowed with that because it's like, if you are against abortion, but you are for, low taxes for the wealthy, then like, or wait a
Yeah.
minute, I've got that backwards.
Or yeah,
If
no,
you're
I know
if
what you
you're
meant.
against
Yeah.
abortion, but you would like to see the wealthy taxed a little higher, then where do you fit? Like you have to be one or the other, and there are
Yeah.
so many. There's a gradient. I mean, there's a spectrum. There's so many different shades of people and their beliefs and their values and their morals. But like in this paradigm, you have to fall into one or the other bucket, and so, yeah, I mean, it really is pitting us against one another when we should be um, looking at entities like the Fed, like the CIA, like the IRS.
Right.
But no, instead, we're fighting amongst one another, and it's exactly divide and conquer. And it works like a charm, man.
Right. Oh, it does, dude. I mean, so many people buy into it, and that's where I know they were trying to. What was that bill that was being passed a while ago with the internet where they're trying to ban? Oh shit, I can't remember the name right now, but they were essentially trying to ban free speech on the internet.
Mm.
SOPA, I think that's what it was. So SOPA,
Okay.
where there were so many like people that oh man, there was this great documentary with this guy. Oh shit, I can't think of his name right now. Aaron something.
Aaron Russo.
No, well, that was another good one that
Mm.
showed the Fed.
Right.
Freedom to fascism with Aaron
Yeah.
Russo.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember that turned me on to Ron Paul when I first heard, because I used to be a hardcore Democrat, back in the day.
Hmm.
And when I saw that movie, and I'm like, how come this congressman who's a Republican is making so much sense? I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And that's when I sort of realized, like, wait a minute. Oh, he's just not partaking in the corruption that both sides play. He has principles, and um, but that's a whole different story. But Aaron Schwartz or something. It's called
Okay.
like the boy who knew too much, or I can't think of the
No, I
name.
think Aaron Schwartz was the guy that came up with Reddit. Is that the guy?
I think that was it, and he ended up supposedly committing suicide,
Right.
um, in jail. But I mean,
Hmm.
he was a. I mean, if it wasn't for him pushing against these bills that were like ready to pass, I mean, those things were ready to go, but he drummed up so much attention that
Hmm.
people ended up saying, like, screw this, we're not going to put up with that, and eventually the congressman and the Senate, they caved, and it didn't end up passing. So we have essentially a free internet for now, but who knows how long that's going to last.
Yeah, we really need to fight for that sort of thing because they are constantly on the attack, constantly trying to, get our rights stripped away little by little, incrementally. And if we're not, constantly alert and constantly trying to wake people up, then, we're screwed. So that's why I think it's so important that we continue trying to wake people up to flat Earth, in spite
Yeah.
of the adverse effects, in spite of the negativity, in spite of all of the bad stuff that comes along with it. As far as I'm concerned, we have a moral imperative to stay on the bullhorn and stay, keep people waking up to this. So,
Right.
yeah.
For sure.
Well,
Agreed.
listen, I got to get up in about 4 hours, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. But if you want to just, I forget, do you make any content on YouTube or anything? Do you have a channel you want to plug real quick? Or
I'm Dave Sims. That's my channel. I put up some videos a while ago. but I never really stuck with it. I've got a few videos up there and some, debunk certain. Well, there were certain flat Earth videos that kind of pissed me off that were showing one thing, and I'm like, well, and then I tested it myself, and it didn't show that. So I was like, and I was being as objective as I can with everything. So
Hmm.
I wasn't like anti flat Earth stuff. It was more just like, okay, I want to get to the truth no matter what. Um,
Right.
so it's more of just like, okay, here's in response to certain videos. That's what I posted up there. But it's not. I'm not. My channel is more just ambiguous. It's more of just, okay, it's not this way or that way. It is what it is. But I only have a few videos up there, anyways. So.
Now there's a couple of Dave Sims channels. There's one with 4 videos and one with 60. Do you know which one yours would be?
Let me check real quick. I think mine's the picture of the beach with the clouds. I don't know that
Oh.
you see. It might be in the Hangouts right now.
Oh, there's lots of Dave Sims now that I'm scrolling down. I thought there was only 2, but there's dozens. If you could, if you could find a link and send it to me, then I'll put it in the show notes once I get it from you.
Oh, okay, right on. Yeah, dude, that
Yeah.
works for sure.
Okay. Yeah, because there's lots of
Sweet.
Dave Sims.
Yeah, I know it wasn't the best name probably that I could have come up with, but it
Yeah,
is what
what
it
can you
is.
do? Well, you could change it if you want to, but hey, that's up to you. Um,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
So yeah, so I guess I'll wrap this up. I had a good time talking with you, Dave, and I wish we could have had Matt on here as well, but he was having issues getting onto Google Hangouts from his smartphone. So that's a shame. Maybe we'll get him on another time. But thanks to everyone out there in the live chat. You guys are great. And as always, this channel is viewer supported. So if you'd like to help keep the channel going, help to keep me or help to help me to keep making future videos, you can make a one-time contribution to PayPal at www.paypal.me/themorguile, or a recurring contribution through Patreon at www.patreon.com/themorguile. And I'll put a couple of links in the chat as well as in the show notes. So with that, I guess we will wrap this one up. God bless you guys. Love y'all. And as always, spread the word, spread the world, and peace out, everybody. And
Support John, man.
the hell
Support
with the
John. He does great
trolls.
work. Yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks again, John, for having me. And yeah, anybody out there, yeah, support John because he's one of the, one of the best out there making real, authentic videos. And I could vouch for him. The guy's, you're awesome, dude. Keep up
Oh,
the good work.
well, thank you, man. Thank you, brother. I mean, appreciate that. It means a lot to me. So anyway, peace out, you guys. Love y'all, and we'll see you on the next one.
Peace.
Bye.